Welcome to the Team of One podcast, where we share the stories of solopreneurs, some like you, some who are new, and some who have been at it for decades, like my next guest. From the initial struggles or even the deceptive quick wins to how they landed where they are today and where they want to go next. These are candid conversations designed to challenge everything we know about solopreneurship while exploring different ideas from different voices so you too can create your own pathway to living life on your own terms. My name is Mo Choice, and in this episode, I spoke with David Preston, who left a billion-dollar corporation to build a multi-million-dollar firm solo. We explored the challenges he faced, how he learned the importance of delegation the hard way, and how he's exploring AI and this idea of an army of VAs to scale his business. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Peace. Welcome back to the Team of One podcast. Today we're joined by David Preston. David, who are you?
I am also known as a legendary consultant. And if you go to Google and look up legendary consultant David Preston, there's over 1 million results for me. So I've been out here for a while.
And tell us a bit more about what you do at the moment.
I'm also a solopreneur. Built a multi-million-dollar consulting firm from the ground up, and I help small businesses and solopreneurs find hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit they didn't even know they had.
What was the title of that book as well that you wrote from a while back?
Offline Goldmine, and I'm in the middle of writing another one called The Profit Coach.
Amazing. Offline Goldmine is a great title. Huh? So you identified as a solopreneur, which is an interesting term for a lot of people, and a lot of people look at it differently. How do you define the term?
It's basically building a business on your own, starting out on your own. And that's very difficult, for many people. So I can relate to everybody. If they're a solopreneur on here, my hat's off to you. And that's the biggest deal too, is wearing like 15 or 20 different hats, as you try to build your company, and it's very, very difficult.
There's a guy, Nick Brokma, on LinkedIn. He did this post where he did the organizational chart of a solopreneur, and he had his face as CEO, CMO, COO, CFO.
True. That's true.
I love that. So let's talk about what took you, or what inspired you to become a solopreneur.
I was actually kind of thrown into the deal, really. By necessity. I worked for $1 billion corporation, worked my way up to RVP, and then they filed for bankruptcy and closed 832 stores in a month. And I decided at that point I was never going to work for anybody else again. So I said, I'm just going to open a consulting firm because I obviously understand business. And I started out by teaching a free workshop at the Small Business Administration Resource Center, a half-day workshop for small business owners that were local. And I just shared with them exactly what they needed to do and market their business locally. I didn't hold anything back, didn't sell anything. And the whole pitch was, at the end of it, I answered open floor Q&A. And then I said, look, I got a box of cards on the table back there. It's not rocket science. If you get stuck, give me a call and I'll walk you through it over the phone. And my phone rang off the hook and they're like, how much for you to do it for me? And that worked really, really well. Pretty soon I was teaching on college campuses and small business development centers, and everywhere there were small business owners and the SBA, I was there. And that pretty much launched me.
Amazing. In terms of the early days, because it sounds like you got traction pretty quickly, and that's not always the case for the solopreneur. What was the biggest struggle, let's say, when you first became a solopreneur?
Trying to learn to juggle my time. It was just ridiculous, because you're traveling some and you're putting yourself out there at events, or in my case, meetings, for teaching workshops. And then, I had nobody but me. And you're trying to educate these people and then juggle the services that you offer them on the phone and closing deals. And the time management was a real problem.
And
You
how
know,
how
so
did you manage how did you manage to negotiate that problem?
that's a great question. I had a mentor who obviously picked me up, a very good friend of mine. He's passed away now. His name was Jim Straw, but he was responsible for $500 million in sales. You know, so he was one of my mentors, and he told me, he said, "Look, man, every entrepreneur on earth, just like me and you, are a control freak." He goes, "That's how we are. It's part of our DNA." And he said, "You've got to learn to let go of some of this stuff around you and hire somebody or even train them to do part of this for you." He said, "Or else you're going to fail." He said, "Or you're going to succeed and have a massive stroke and heart attack." It's, one of the two. And that was the toughest part, was learning how to let go, and give the reins to somebody else and trust them to do the job you hired them to do. And fortunately for me now, I live off and on in the land of the Philippines. I'm married to a Filipina, and she has an advanced law degree, very smart lady, and she runs an outsourcing network, of a bunch of college grads over here who are always looking to work for companies, and they're very loyal, and they can't find work, and they're college graduates and young kids, and they're ready to roll. And they follow instructions really well. So that's why we're here now. I'm in the Philippines now. We're actually doing some hiring for a new division we're starting.
Amazing. So if someone was to listen to this and say, well, then you're not really a solopreneur if you're hiring and bringing people in, how would you respond to that?
I would say I transcended, from after I lost all my hair by pulling it out. I said, "Look, I have no hair left. So I'm either going to have to hire some people to help me, or I'm going to be stalled at this plateau and I'm never going to be able to scale." And that was the problem, so yeah, I kind of transcended from that. I've got 5 different divisions, and I have one main VA and 5 other VAs that run each one of those divisions. And the only one that can get in touch with me is my master VA. So if she can't answer the problem, she brings it to me and says, "We got a problem." I'm like, "All right, we have an opportunity." She's like, "I'm sorry, we have an opportunity." But
So
that's the biggest part, is learning to
so
let go
if
so you can scale.
yeah, and this is super interesting because it's like it's so you've got a team of VAs. Is that what you is that how you think of it?
Yeah, I started out with just one VA, and she was like $7.50 an hour. She's a college graduate, um, has a degree in marketing, and we started working together. And I started her out at like 20 hours a week, and she was ecstatic, and really that supports her and her entire extended family, over here. That's a lot of money to them, so $7.50 an hour was great for her. And it helped a lot of people locally here too. But the great thing about that was I started trusting her more and more, and letting her take over more and more, and then now she's my master VA, and I've got 5 other VAs under her.
And and the idea here is that they can do a lot of the heavy lifting that you don't need to do because your time is spent better elsewhere, or is there another way you're looking at it?
Correct. Yeah, my time needs to be closing deals, and doing one-on-one coaching with upper end clients or that type thing that they cannot do, but I've
Mhm.
learned over time that anything that they can do, I'm giving it to them. I'll give them as much of my work as they can possibly handle. If it's not something that I personally have to be involved with, I'm not doing it anymore. That
I,
has allowed
I
me to
think,
scale, ridiculously fast.
and I think this is an important maybe discussion to have before we move on to the next part. Um, I always talk about the opportunity cost, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, I'll give you a simple example. I rented a car, or I wanted to rent a car in London a few weeks back because I wanted to drive up north. And when I
Yeah.
got to the car rental place, they didn't have any of the cars that I requested, and they offered me an electric car, and I was like, I don't want an electric car because I'm driving
No.
long distance. And they said, well, what do you want us to do? And I said, just cancel the agreement, give me my money back. And they said, fine. And they said, your refund will be processed in 3 business days. And I've been waiting 3 weeks. And I was on the phone to their call center for a couple of hours yesterday, and I was like, I could have made the money that I'm trying to get back from them tenfold in that couple of hours. Why am I wasting a couple of hours on the phone for $165?
Right.
And so I start to think about this in solopreneur terms. And when I work with people, I say the same thing. I go, okay, if you can pay someone to do this task $10, and you can make $100 in that same time, or you can do tasks worth $100 an hour, then that's really the best way to think about it. Is that something that resonates with you?
It absolutely does. Because for big corporations or bigger companies or that type stuff, I have charged as much as $500 an hour, for consulting, because it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars to them. So I've got other stuff I could be doing, and I would much rather pay somebody $7.50, to stay on the phone for a couple of hours, while I'm on the other end making $500 an hour. So
I love that. And here's the other thing, Mr. Preston. If I can pay $500 for the hour for someone to do the work and make the $100 doing what I love doing and what I'm good at, it's still a good deal.
It is. It is. You're right. You're absolutely right.
You have up to $500 to play with. So if you're paying $10 an hour, you can get a team of 50 VAs.
Correct. And then we pay once a week every Friday, and they love it, so their families love us. We have, company picnics, and we had a big swimming party, not long ago, and everybody was there. It was just packed. We're like, bring your family, and believe me, they will. And they'll bring as much food as you could possibly put anywhere. It won't fit anywhere. It's a great time,
Chicken adobo and the good stuff, huh?
Yes, correct. That's the big deal over here. You're right.
Oh yeah, massive deal. What was the? Oh, here's a question for you. If you started again, think back to you lost your job because of the filing for bankruptcy, that company, and you decided, I'm going to go on my own. Is there anything you would do differently, or not do, or do if you had to go back to that time?
The strategy, I think, in the beginning, I just lucked into that because I just figured I would help them first, and that build their trust. And then if they wanted to hire me, they could hire me because they knew me by then. So basically, if I taught an in-person workshop, I spent 4 hours branding myself, as the go-to guy for that, in their mind. And that worked really, really well. So I would not change that at all. The one thing that I would change is I would start hiring people to help me immediately. And, because I couldn't scale because of that. I had too much work going on. I had packages I was trying to get together, and I'm traveling and teaching workshops, and I'm getting more and more clients, calling me, but I can't do anything because I'm at a plateau now. There's only one me, and I'm working 60, 65 hours a week, and I just can't do it anymore. That would be the one thing, is learn to let go if you're going to scale. If you're happy where you're at as a solopreneur and you're making like 6 figures a year and you're good with that, then just stay where you're at. That's cool. As long as you've found your happiness, that's what matters. But other than that, if you plan on scaling at all, you need to start hiring as fast as possible.
Great. And a couple of things just to close off on this. So here's 2 things that I talk about. You have to know what you're delegating. Like, you have to know what that is that you're delegating. And the second thing also is you want to delegate the stuff that you know how to do so you can learn the new stuff other than delegating the stuff that you don't know how to do and stick to what you know. Is there anything you want to say about that?
That's a really good point, Mo. Very good point. And part of that too is I will never delegate anything to anybody that I cannot do myself. And the reason for that is I don't want to get ripped off. If you give it to somebody and you don't know how to do it, then you don't know if they're doing it correctly or not, or they're charging you all this extra money for stuff that doesn't even need to be. So that was one lesson I learned really quick, is don't delegate anything that you have not truthfully done yourself. And I have a plaque on the wall in the office in America, and it was given to me by Jim Straw. And it says, "True knowledge can only be obtained by the application of information."
I love that.
So if you have no true knowledge, don't delegate it.
Yeah, right. And I know CEOs that bring in a salesperson and say, you need to be hitting these targets. And I'm like, but you never hit those targets. Why are you giving that to the sales guy? You know what I mean? And then I remember I was interning CEO at this retreat center, and they used to serve food as part of the retreat center. They would also serve the food to rented it out. And I said, why are you paying so much for the kitchen stuff? And he said, oh, that's how long it takes them to prepare. And I said, how do you know that? And he said, well, that's what they tell me. And so I went and I sat in the kitchen as interim CEO. First week, I sat in the kitchen and I observed. And of course, what do you observe? It's like half the time. There's no way they needed that time. And all I did was say, we're not going to pay per hour anymore. We're going to pay per service.
Correct.
And lo and behold, Mr. Preston, the minute I made it per service, they were finishing in half the time.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, I'll be damned. Okay.
Yep.
I want to talk about the future because you have some really interesting relationships and a really interesting connection with AI. And so I don't know if you want to start there, but I really wanted to talk about, as a solopreneur today, whether you're successful, you're at 7 figures, 6 figures, just starting out. If I'm looking to the next 7 years, what do I have to consider, and what can I do now to be ready for those 7 years?
Yeah, with AI, there's basically probably 5 big players, in the market right now. And most people know about ChatGPT or, that's about it. So they really don't understand it. And I made a series of videos, and I also have a coaching program for that too, where I teach entrepreneurs about AI. And AI can be one of the best VAs that you could ever hire. ChatGPT is okay, but it got dwarfed by AI RPM. As an example, ChatGPT has like 2,000 prompts, engineered prompts to tell it what to do that you can just copy and paste. AI RPM has 27,000. So that's a big difference. And then GROK is probably the best player on the field right now, from Twitter, or X.com. And that's from Elon Musk. But it has deep reasoning ability. It has the ability to reason. And it's the only one that does that. It's crazy. You can ask it something and it'll go to deep think mode, and then it'll switch back to reasoning, and then it switches back to web search, and then it comes back and says, I've got your answer. And you're like, I'm sure you do. But the greatest thing too was I asked it one time to get me a list for a VA that she could call to make appointments. And it said, I can't get you that personal information. I can give you the companies or the websites or that type stuff because of the Privacy Act notice that I'm restricted by. However, I will build you a prompt that you can use on deepseek.com because it's from China and it's not restricted by American laws. And I was like, yes, do that for me, please. And it said, happy to. It built me a paragraph that I just copied and pasted over into DeepSeek, and in like 5 minutes, I had 1,000 leads, with all the information that you could imagine.
Wow. So if I'm
the
sitting
thing,
here
the thing
as
is, and I've never heard of anybody doing this yet. The thing is, if you're trained properly, you can actually get the AI to talk to each other, and they understand each other on a level we can't even comprehend. And they'll talk to each other with prompts and engineering and stuff, and they'll do exactly what you want them to do.
So as a lot of the solopreneurs I know don't use. They use ChatGPT, like you said, very basically. Can you help me come up with a blog? Can you help me think of a title for my workshop? Can you give me some ideas about this or that? What do we have to prepare for, or what do we have to get to grips with that will help us become successful solopreneurs or maintain our solopreneurship over the next few years?
GROK is a big player, and if you sign into GROK, it's free. I'm in the highest level beta tester right now from Elon was fortunate enough to give me that. And you can just talk to it. You can turn the microphone on and say good morning, and it goes, hey, good morning, how are you? How's life in the Philippines? Blah, blah, blah. It knows where you're at, it knows everything about you. And you just tell it what you want, and it goes, okay. And it's like 2 or 3 minutes, it comes back and says this. And if you're like, nah, that's kind of sort of, can you rewrite that? And he's like, sure. Would you like me to include this and this? Like, yes, please. So it can make your life a lot faster, a lot easier, and you can outsource so many tasks, to AI if you know how to prompt it. And that's the key, is becoming a prompt engineer to learn how to direct it to do exactly what you want it to do. It follows directions,
Can we not,
but it's got to be explicit directions.
So can we not ask GROK AI how to prompt it? Does it not work that way?
Yeah, you can. You can actually ask it, what instructions do you need from me to complete this task?
Huh.
And then just like the lead generation stuff, it said, I really am not good at that. It said, I can give you the generic information, but DeepSeek is made in China and it's not bound by US laws. So that would be the one to go to. I'm not as good as DeepSeek on leads. You're like, okay.
That's amazing. So if you're giving advice to someone, it would be to get used to the how to talk to them, to learn about how to prompt, to learn about what to say and what its capabilities are. Then what?
After that, I would start delegating some stuff to it. It's really good for, that's just like I did not know. AIRPM told me that if it creates an article or a blog post or something out there, Google has its own AI called Gemini. And its AI engine will know that that is AI generated content, and it's not going to rank it because it wasn't human. But AIRPM told me that, I have a prompt system inside me that is called Get Human. And if you get ChatGPT or one of the others to write a blog post for you and then sign into AIRPM and put it in Get Human, copy and paste it there, it'll make it human. And Gemini won't know the difference. And I was like, okay, let's try that. And it worked. I was like, wow. So there are things like that, that you could do like in 5 minutes. You can write a really good blog post with points, and it'll even make graphics and everything else that's related to it, non-copyright infringement type stuff. And then go to Get Human, copy and paste it in there, and from there, you're ready to roll.
Amazing. So David, obviously you're successful and you're immersing yourself in AI and you're getting to grips with what's going on and understanding its potential. What's next level for you, for David Preston? Like, what's the next stage of your career?
The next stage for me is basically to get all 5 divisions going, to work with each other in this new division and everything. And I just want to step back and do some more traveling and some more fun, with the family, because that was the dream to begin with, was be able to have, not only to buy the boat that sits in the backyard and under a tarp all the time, to be able to use the boat with the family to go skiing on the lake once in a while. That's why you really become, an entrepreneur, is not only for the income, but for the time. And it's very rare, that you have both. And that's my goal, is to have the income and the support, without having to put the time into it that I did in the past. That's a key for me. I want to spend a lot of time with the family. I want to relax. And, I just want to semi-retire.
And so aside from these 5 VAs that you've got and getting them working together, are there any other strategies or any other things that you're thinking about doing? AI, obviously, we talked about. Anything else that you want to share about what's going to help you buy your time back and be able to do some more of the things that you want to do?
Yeah, one of the best things I can tell somebody is if you're in a service-based business, as a solopreneur especially, I wish I would have figured this out earlier too, is find a business that serves that audience and cut a deal with them. And we've got a guy now that keeps our appointment calendars pretty full because he is a high-end bookkeeper for small business owners that are doing $3 to $5 million a year annually, and they want some help. So he just sends out an email. He's got the credibility that I don't. They know him. He's their bookkeeper. And then he says, you need to book an appointment with this guy. He's awesome. And that's it. That's your in. So your prospecting days are finished. All of the chasing the leads are finished. Find somebody that serves your audience and pay them. For every referral that I close for this guy, I give him 20% straight across the board.
I love that. That's super cool. The biggest risk at the moment, David, to you being able to take the boat out whenever you want and spend all the time with your family and do more of what you love, what's the biggest risk at the moment?
The fear in the back of my mind that everything is not going to get done. That's got to be an entrepreneur thing. And the whole time you're out there on the boat, you're like, I should have done this, or I should have delegated that, or that.
That's the control. That's the control freak that you were talking about earlier, coming back and rearing its ugly head, right?
Correct. And it's a constant thing, but that's part of, I guess, entrepreneurial DNA. You really can't help that to a degree. And it's very difficult to let go of that.
Agreed. There's a lady called Tracy Goss. Are you familiar with her? She wrote the book, The Last Word on Power. She's like a high-end executive coach, one of the best in the business from the 70s and 80s. And she talks about executive reinvention. And she calls it your winning strategy. So control, or hyperachiever, or people pleaser, or these things that is your dominant trait. Let's say she calls it your winning strategy because she says without the control, let's say, as your winning strategy, you wouldn't have got to where you get to. So of course you're going to double down on it, and of course you're going to want to keep that strategy and that trait. And the problem is, like with sports coaches, it's going to come a time where that strategy doesn't win anymore. And only then do you have to start to think about alternative strategies. And I think that's the thing that we have to play with as solopreneurs also, is to think, well, maybe we need an alternative strategy here.
Yeah, and she's got a really good point. And I've read, a lot of what she does. I'm very familiar with her. She's great. And one of the things about that is you've got to back up and figure out, I call it reverse engineering your success, is is figure out, who you would like to be like, follow what they do, and then reverse engineer what they're doing. And that helps a lot. I picked some guys, like Jim Straw and Willie Crawford and a few other fellows, and I mean, like Willie is semi-retired and he taught me a lot of stuff about online stuff. We're good friends, but he has an email list of 5 million people, so he could sit down and make a $1 offer, and he's all set, That's his whole job for the next year. Okay, I'm finished. Let's go sip Mai Tais by the pool.
Amazing. That's the power, right? That's the power of attention. I love that. Okay, let's close off with final reflections. How do you want to? We talked. Obviously, we started with where you started and how once you left your job, you went solo and you decided to do that. And how you worked your way through and figured out that you needed help and got the help in and scaled. And now you're tackling AI and you're thinking about, saving even more time. What are your final reflections that you'd like to share to close off on this conversation?
I would start outsourcing, as fast as possible. That's the biggest deal. If you're going to scale at all, you've got to have help. You can't do it by yourself. You're stuck. Let go of some of that. Pass it off to somebody else and even train them if you have to, and AI, I've started teaching a course in AI and coaching people on AI. And I've got a line already of entrepreneurs that are like, yeah, teach me what you already know about AI because that's amazing. And it can really be a time saver. That can be your first VA, so if you want to learn more about that, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Just look up the Legendary Consultant. I'm on there. And, I have a lot of stuff on there. You could also go to davidprestonconsulting.com and put a request in. I'll get back to you. And my phone number is readily available. And I have chats with people all the time. And if I can help you, I absolutely will. One thing that I would advise everybody is my massive success was actually started from helping people. Teaching the free workshops, giving them real actionable content and real help. So if you have the opportunity to do that to your audience, do it. It'll pay off in spades very quickly. Don't ask for anything in return. Just help them. And they'll always come back to you. Always come back to you.
Very clear, Mr. Preston. And as he said, connect with him on LinkedIn, find him online. Reach out to him, let him know that you heard him here on the Team of One podcast, and he's well worth speaking to. You can see that already.
Yeah, absolutely. Mention the fact that you heard me on, Mo's podcast. That makes a big difference to me because I get inundated with people trying to sell me everything in the world. So if you say, "Hey, I heard you on the Team of One podcast," I'm like, "Okay, I'll talk to this guy."
I love it. Super cool. That's your entry in. That's the secret password, right? To get in.
There you go.
The castle. I love that. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and I know it's early in the morning for you. So I appreciate you giving me your time and sharing your wisdom. And if there's anything I can ever do to support you in your work, you know where to find me too. But for now, David, I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And I will start my slow IV drip of caffeine. It's about 3:30 in the morning over here, but that's okay. I'm used to that. Amazing. Thanks, Mo. Amazing. I appreciate you too, my friend.